There is a substantial risk of loss associated with trading forex, binary options, stocks, or equities, collectively, asset classes. Only risk capital should be used for trading. Trading in any asset classes is not appropriate for everyone. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. No representation is being made that investors will make profits, or will not sustain losses. Before trading in any asset classes, investors should consult with their professional broker, financial advisor, or financial consultant to determine whether trading asset classes is appropriate. Investors who trade in any asset classes should only do so if the capital used for this purpose represents funds that an investor can afford to lose without adversely impacting the investor's lifestyle. No trading strategy or methodology is without risk of loss. No trading strategy is risk-free, and no trading strategy can guarantee profits or freedom from losses. Investors risk losing the cost to execute any transaction, including associated commissions or fees. You should carefully consider whether trading in any asset class is appropriate for you in light of your investment experience and financial resources. Any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. None of the statements or materials in the Auvoria Prime chat rooms constitute a solicitation or recommendation to buy or sell.
Welcome, Auvorian subscribers, to the Midweek Software Strategy Session. My name is Steve Vetterl. Today's the 2nd of November. It is Election Day, so if you need to, in the precinct you are hopefully registered, please go vote. I'd like to tell everybody this is going to be a quick run-through call. So a little bit after 10 a.m. here, I try to do these calls on Tuesdays and Saturdays. Let's go through the week's Forex Factory calendar. It's one of the best out there for what it's worth. I do recommend that you filter out anything but red folder events. So as we can see, today's Tuesday, we've got the unemployment rate coming out. Anybody that trades NZD, do keep in mind tomorrow, FOMC statement. This is big stuff. There are also rumors swirling right around all of this that Jerome Powell may not be taking the next term as Fed governor. Possibly the President Biden is not going to appoint him. Right now it's speculation. There is just that surrounding it. If there was any additional speculation and or there was a potential for it to turn into a different Fed governor, obviously that's going to bring some risk to the marketplace. Why? Because they don't understand that Fed governor. They don't know what he or she would do. They may not know their track record. It takes time to sort of get up to speed, if you will, on any new individual that is appointed to something as powerful as a central bank. So just keep that in mind as we walk through the next few days. Markets have been somewhat calm. Typically you see after decent corrections, I don't know, I would necessarily classify that as a decent correction, but some will. The market melt up into year end, provided there is no problems with earnings, so forth. That's kind of what we're seeing in equities right now. So with that being said, big events tomorrow, GBP related. I'd kind of stay away from a lot of trades surrounding this, and to keep in mind that these times aren't necessarily synced with yours. As you can see, actually these times aren't even really synced with me, so just look to see that the times are synced up correctly for yours. And then obviously Friday we have the big one. This is what some people refer to as NFP, non-farm payrolls, unemployment, call it what you will. It is one of the larger reports that is released in the United States. It's typically done on the first Friday of the month, not always, but typically done on the first Friday of the month at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, so be aware of that. On to the charts. S&P, first time in a while we have seen a support and resistance show up on the daily chart. I can make this a little bigger so it's easier to see. Do note that. Also note, looking at the S&P long term, which I posted on Twitter, big long term resistance line from a trend based perspective. You know, we've been in a trend up, some arguably a lot earlier than 2014, but this is a fairly decent trend line that we may have some resistance against. Now note that this has all come on declining volume, right? So always makes these types of rallies more suspect, right? But you know, as you can see, knocking on the door, rejection, possibly something to note. Back to the charts. Just the cues real quick. try and limit this meeting here today, as for some of the people who just joined us. Got a bunch of things to do, and quite frankly, there's not a lot going on in the marketplace. So let's switch over to the DAX. I've shown this for you guys in a while. If you want to note daily charts, back to the S&P daily chart. Again, keep in mind what I posted on Twitter. Qs daily. Bonds, still kind of a little lower balancing area. Longer term bonds. Let's go to the dollar. Still inside that tight range I talked a lot about on Saturday. Talked actually a lot about that on Saturday. So same thing here. Opposite side of the equation, euro US dollar. Still inside a tight range. Remember, I had mentioned that we were probably going to see some squeeze zones, support and average, I should say support and resistance lines forming. Talked about that a fair amount on Saturday if you want to go back and watch the recording. Cable, so versus dollar here. Again, still balancing through this area. USD CAD, we've broken below it. A long balance area that we've been in since the spring of 21. Broken below it. In a whole bunch of indecision dojis. I think just a lot of these currency markets are waiting for something to develop, you know, sort of treading water, if you will, with the exception of this yen. Now we were in a very tight, very coiling base or trending sideways range that we're in. We broke out of it. This is going to be some solid support should we get back down to this area. But again, a lot of indecision in terms of candle formations. USD, Swiss, same thing. These are just daily charts. We're just ripping through them. Note the resistance in a fairly sizable pullback. Aussie-US relationship. CAD-CH still inside the upper balance area we've been in since Q1 of 21. Euro GBP, looks like we may break this area, get back up into the same balance area we've been in since essentially Q1. Let's move into GBP CAD. This one's on the edge. So one thing I do want to alert for, hopefully anybody that's accepting trades from NEO, is that we're on the edge, and arguably we could drop a little bit further, but you know, we're holding. So this one's kind of surprising. You know, I mean, the pound's been, you know, stronger in relation to at least most of the majors, with the exception of the Canadian dollar. Sort of a strange, broken away relationship. Not sure what factors of inaction, if you will, that I would place on how this gets set up. Just note that we break this area decisively. Don't know I'd be too interested in accepting some longs down here, guys. More like a pullback short to this zone between, you know, essentially right underneath this spot 6,900 area, all the way to the spot 6873 area, somewhere in that range. Note that. Same thing happening here with the franc. Now these two are similar edge of the cliff, right? If this one goes first, I would keep a close eye on GBP CAD. Just looking at daily charts at this point from a perspective standpoint. AUD CAD, and I've already shown some of this in other areas. If we jump back to AUD US dollar, see, charts look familiar, right? You jump back and forth between the two of them. This one, we're still in a zone we've been in for a while. Most of these were zones that formed, or I should say the beginning of that balance area, the lower zone that many of them are trending in, formed at the end of Q1 of 20. But take a look at the relationship between these two. You know, they're still in the zones, but pretty decent movements. Opposite side of that, GBP NZD. We went through all the way down to the next zone, had some pretty decent support. Now we've rallied a bunch. So things acting strange in currency land, sort of like a whole bunch of uncorrelations going on, right? Gold still mired in a very tight balance, arguably is continuing to coil. Remember, these things can be irrational a long time, and they can stay irrational for a much longer period of time than you can stay solvent. So always wait for something to break before you get into any crazy trades, especially if you're taking ones from the standpoint of a outside in-base trade, as I talk a lot about. The coinage still balancing in this upper zone. ETFs have come out. A lot of them have been approved by the SEC that have allowed for different ETF and mutual fund companies to build futures-based ETFs. I am following one of them. Not much charts to speak of, so I'm not even going to comment on it. It's the ProShares Bitcoin. This is not a recommendation from me. It's just an additional way to follow Bitcoin from a futures-only perspective, okay? So keep that in mind as we're going through all of that. That's pretty much all I have to say. Just a quick note on that. Do keep in mind the factors in play. I think could bring some volatility, obviously, Friday, and the fact that Jerome Powell may decide to step down if he is not appointed for a second term. That will throw some unknowns into the area of the central bank. My name is Steve Federer. I wish everybody a great week. May the trades be with you.